Hello and welcome to our Mulberry Talent Partners Leadership Conversation. I'm going to give everyone just a few more moments to begin logging on. Okay, it looks like attendees are beginning to roll in. So again, welcome to our Mulberry Talent Partners Leadership Conversation today. We're so glad to have you here. I'm Laura Back. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events at Mulberry Talent Partners. If you're new to us, welcome. We're so glad to have you here today. Just a little bit more about Mulberry. We are a full service staffing and recruiting agency headquartered in Portland, Oregon, with a brand new office in the San Francisco Bay Area. We specialize in the professional placement of human resources, professional and financial office, payroll and operations positions for direct hire, temp to hire, and temporary or contract roles. I would encourage you to check us out online at mulberrytalent.com, where you can learn more about our full suite of service offerings and browse our new exciting candidate profile section, where you can browse through candidates based on your current requisition needs. Today, I am pleased to introduce our fabulous founder and president, Lauren Francis. Lauren founded Mulberry Talent Partners in June of 2017, bringing over 25 years of talent acquisition and entrepreneurial experience. And again, I'm Laura Back with Mulberry. And just to jump into an introduction for our fabulous guest speaker, every day for the past year, we have all wondered and worried about what to do and what to say in the new world of work, because our world involves wearing masks, social distancing, and operating in an entirely virtual business world. So to help navigate your way through important conversations, meetings, and presentations, we've invited the woman who wrote the book, The New Hello, What to Say and What to Do in the New World of Work, Tracy Hooper. Tracy is the founder of the Confidence Project and a dear friend of Mulberry Talent Partners. She joined us last year to talk about words to lose and words to use to help people grow their influence and their careers. Today, Tracy and Lauren will talk about her new book and share some of the greatest tips that we can all benefit from in this new world of work. Welcome back, Tracy. We're so glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah. Before I go on ahead and pass it over to Tracy and Lauren, first, we'd like for this session to be very interactive. So please feel free to use that Q&A button and we will hop on to answer questions as they come in. We'd love to hear from you. And the second piece is that we are excited to announce that we are going to be doing a giveaway of Tracy's book. So 3 lucky attendees will get a copy and we will share the winners when we send an email out to everyone later on in the week, and we'll also share the recording from today. Without further ado, Tracy and Lauren.
Oh, thanks so much, Laura. And it's so good to be back with you again, Tracy.
Thank you. Same here.
Yeah, Tracy and I met maybe 2.5, 3 years ago at a networking event in person.
Yeah. Remember the old days?
And then I became a client of Tracy's with the Confidence Project and still continue that work today. And then Tracy wrote this fabulous book. So here we are. So yes, we had Tracy on last August and now have her back to speak about her book. So anyway, well, let's get started.
Yeah, let's do. I have to say, before we jump in, that part of my motivation to finish that book came from you, because you said, oh, you're right. And when I was on your program the first time, oh, you're writing a book. We want to have you back when it's finished. And I thought, oh, I hope I finish that thing.
Right, we had it on the calendar. You got to put it on the calendar and work your way backwards, right?
Well, that's exactly right. I put it under my signature, coming soon, coming this fall, coming this winter. And finally in December, it was published and ready to go.
Fantastic. Well, we're happy to have you back.
Thank
and wanting to jump in and get started. And why did you write The New Hello? What was the inspiration for it?
The inspiration came from the world. The world changed overnight, as we all know. We went from shaking hands and high-fiving and hugs to being afraid to look at people in the eye. We were living with so much fear. It almost felt like, if I look at someone, I'm going to catch COVID. And I have had to remind myself and other people, you can't catch anything by looking someone in the eye. Keep looking them in the eye. And it became more important than ever when people had to wear masks. And then that eye contact, even in waiting in line at the post office or at the grocery store, was more important. So the world changed. And, and so did my business. And I thought, how can I serve my clients? Because I do one-on-one work, as you know, but I also worked with large groups of people in big rooms, helping them to connect and build relationships and communicate with each other. And when that shut down, I thought, how am I going to keep going? And one day I was talking with my business coach, even coaches have coaches. And I said to him, Mark, I don't know how I can keep doing this. I guess I need to, I guess I need to come up with a new hello. And he said, oh my gosh, Tracy, that's the name of your book. You need to say, that's it. And I said, I'm not writing a book. He said, yes, you are. People need this message and you can do it.
And do as
Anyway, long
told.
story short.
Do as told.
Do as told, exactly. And it was a labor of love. I discovered a lot about myself. Like I have a lot of creative energy at 4 and 4:30 in the morning, which I never knew, which I don't use all the time, but it really helped me get through it. And it really felt like people were asking me questions. For instance, in the very beginning of the book, I talk about my clients reaching out to me. I thought, well, if I'm having, how can I serve my clients? And this is what they were saying. How do I show my ROI when I work from home? How can I look confident when presenting on video calls? How do I keep my team in good spirits? How do I keep my team from working 24/7 since everybody's at home? How can I stop people from interrupting me on video calls? You know, how do I greet people virtually or in person during COVID? So a whole list of questions that people were sending me. And I thought, okay, I can help them with this. At least I'll do my best.
And you did. You
Thank
did
you.
your best. So what is the new hello about?
The new hello is about how to navigate in the new world of work. Everything has changed, even if we're in this hybrid model of working from home some and working in the office some. It is a new world that we're living in. And it really is a mindset. It's a mindset of, okay, I can feel physically and psychologically safe to go back to the office. I can do this. And I'm still a valuable member of the team. I can produce a lot. I can make a difference in the company that I'm working for. So that's the mindset part. And then the skill set is, what do I do when people come up to me and say, I haven't seen you in so long. Let's shake hands. It doesn't matter. And you're not ready to do that. How do you greet people? How do you say goodbye? And how do you have all those conversations in between with confidence? That's what it's about. Lots of how-tos, lots of, if this happens, say this. If that happens, do that. Lots of stories from the trenches. I've talked with a lot of my clients about how they've handled it, and wisdom from a lot of people.
You know, when I was reading the book, I did notice, it seemed to me, and not etiquette so much as civility, and what that means, meaning that it's sort of the new hello, the new civility, or how to respond and how to react. And I was really taken by that, and it was impressionable. And I wondered if you had that in mind when you were writing the book.
Definitely. I definitely had that in mind. I think part of what's happening in the world is has become increasingly casual and increasingly crude and crass. And we can, if we really want to carry ourselves with confidence, how we show up in a variety of situations, including the awkward ones, can make a big difference in our careers. Here's an example. Now we're inching our way back into the workplace and into the world. And a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I had a meeting with someone, 45 minutes in my house to work on a project. I put the chairs in the living room 10 feet apart, opened up 2 windows, heard the knock on the door, put on my mask, opened up the door, and this woman was maskless. And I must have looked surprised because she said, oh, don't worry, I've been vaccinated. And in that moment, I brought my props, Lauren. The little bubble popped in my head and I'm thinking, okay, what does that mean? She's been vaccinated, but I haven't. So does that mean I can't give her COVID, or she can't give me COVID, or who's in her bubble and who's in my bubble? And do I postpone the meeting? Do we meet outside? I mean, it was crazy. And you know what I did? I caved. I took off my mask and I said, congratulations. That's great. Come on in. And as we walked into the living room and sat in our socially distanced chairs, I thought, I have decision fatigue. And we all have decision fatigue. And at that moment, I thought, if I had used my I statements, and I talk a lot about using I statements, this is a way to treat people with respect, but have your own boundaries. If I had used my I statements, it could have made a huge difference in my own sense of ease. What I'm hoping to share with people is ways that you can feel ease. If I had said to her, I'm so happy for you, but I'm not vaccinated yet. So, and we're still trying to be careful in our house. So I would appreciate it if both of us wore masks. Oh, well, I didn't bring one. No problem. I have some extra ones that are disposable in the kitchen. I'll be right back. If I had said that, I would have felt more confident, less agitated and worried, and both of our needs would have been met. We would have had our meeting. It was fine. Keep our masks on for 45 minutes. So those are the kinds of skills that I talk about in the book, where you can stand up for yourself and treat people with civility.
So true. And I think that people, when you mentioned about the world is becoming crude and some of these other things, there's a lot of evidence of that. And there's different ways to handle that situation. Some people aren't as gracious in your example. They're not as gracious when it comes to those kinds of requests.
Yes.
I appreciate the I statement in some of those examples.
Mm-hmm. And part of the skills around the Confidence Project and the New Hello means practicing. My niece says, Tracy, I read your book and now I've cut and pasted some of these expressions in my brain so that when this happens, I know what to say. Mm-hmm. Being confident it's not about never being anxious or never being intimidated or afraid. It's about practicing certain skills so you know what to say or do next, mm-hmm. which then lowers your anxiety, and then you can focus on your job or the relationships you're trying to build. And practice makes progress. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was thinking there are many examples in your book. That was one example, and so I appreciated all of the examples because there are so many different situations that we're in that we need some help with.
Yeah.
So how is the book best used?
Oh, what I've learned from people who've read it is pick a chapter. Pick a chapter that interests you. What's an issue that's on your mind? You want to improve your language and how you carry yourself and how you present yourself on video calls or in person? That would be chapter 7, words to lose, words to use. If you want to work on your on-camera skills, because we'll be Zooming for the rest of our lives in some way, we'll be Zooming every day. And that's chapter 6. So pick a chapter and then read it that way. There's no beginning and end to it. I mean, there is, but you don't have to read it in order.
Tracy and Lauren, we had a question come in. This attendee asks, if the employer wants you to go back 100%, and if you're not ready, but you love your job and don't want to leave, how do you approach that conversation?
Great. What a great question. Lauren, you may have an answer. I do too. Shall we start with you as president of Mulberry?
Let's start with you.
Okay. This is what I would recommend. There is no substitute for good conversation. And when you use I statements such as, I love my job, I am committed to this job, this career post, and I'm also not ready to come back full time. Is there a way that we could talk about making this work without my coming back full time? Or perhaps you could work different hours than other people in your office so that you would feel safe. And ask the questions of your boss, of your company president, about what kind of safety measures have been taken. And in some cases, it could be your child may not be back in school yet. And so now you're trying to figure out what you can do if the child's still at home and you have to go to work. But there's no substitute for conversations. And then using that I language, it's really helpful.
No, the conversation for sure. And then to ask about, you know, what are ways we can work together for certain. So I appreciate it.
And starting with the positive, I love my job. And I'm really happy I've been able to keep it going with this kind of robust attitude and production all through the year of COVID.
Yeah. Looking for a solution for sure.
Yeah.
Couple more questions come in. Wendy asks, how do you recommend handling job applicants or hiring managers who are hesitant to join video calls?
Hiring managers. So that someone who's interviewing you doesn't want to be on camera? Isn't that interesting? Okay, here's as my mother would say, this thought is 30 seconds old. I would look up the hiring manager on LinkedIn so you can get a visual of what that person looks like and you learn something about them, their background, how long they've been at the company, because I think there's great value in attaching a name and a face and a voice and everything. It's, in fact, studies show that there is neuroscience behind having your camera on, that we get this invisible energy that's exchanged from one person to another. And we get something called dopamine. We get a dose of dopamine. When that camera is on, it's one of those happy hormones like serotonin and oxytocin. When that camera is on, we get to feel almost as if we're with that person. That being said, look up the person on LinkedIn and then picture that person when you're having the conversation. And, you know, you can't ask them to turn on their camera, but I would certainly turn on my camera. As a candidate, I would definitely have my camera on.
That's great. And then one additional question, Jennifer asks, how do you best greet a person you are meeting in person for the first time, as an example, for an interview?
Great, Jennifer. Thank you for that question. Here's what you say. Let's say you're meeting Suzanne. You'll say, you put your hand over your heart, which is a way to keep it from being awkward that you're not shaking hands. And you can say, Suzanne, it's so great to meet you. I would love to shake your hand and look forward to it. But in the meantime, I'm glad we're meeting in person. Thanks for the opportunity for the interview. Again, using those I statements. It's so great to meet you. I'd love to shake your hand. That kind of language is powerful. And guess what? Other people are feeling the same way too. And here's a really interesting, this just happened. I was speaking with somebody in the financial services industry, and he had gotten on a plane for the first time in a year to go meet some clients who he had been in touch with on a regular basis for a year. And they were meeting him. And he said, I had just read your book and I was prepared for what I was going to say, you know, if they wanted to shake my hand. And the person came right up to him and said, I really want to shake your hand. And this fella didn't know what to do. So he shook their hand. And then it said, it was nice to meet. And he said, I was flabbergasted. I said, this thought was new for me, but I'm sharing it with you all. I said to him, you shook their hand. And then I would have said, you know, I've just Purelled, so we're all good. And that way, that person knew that your hands were clean and that if something happened to them, if they got a cold or anything, they would say, well, it didn't come from Joe because he had just Purelled. I'm telling you, this information is hot off the press. We are learning as we go.
Tracy, just to follow up on that story. So if someone did shake your hand and you felt, you know, like you weren't comfortable, but you did it anyway, and then you're going to continue that conversation. Is it rude to hand sanitize? What's the protocol?
That is a great question. I would say, I hope you don't mind if I put some Purell on my hands. What are they going to say? Yes, I do mind. Or, you know, or that, you know, you might say, I hope you don't mind if I put some Purell on my hands. I'm working hard to stay safe.
You know,
Yeah.
one other comment is that our lovely Kelsey always uses, "oh gosh." It's so cute. And her emails, just, "oh gosh," whatever. And it's just so sweet. And so, say, "oh gosh, I'm not shaking hands yet," or something like that, because it's not threatening. You're not dismissing someone, but you sort of like put your hands, "oh gosh."
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to shake your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put your hands.
And I talk about ways that you can safely hug, because there are studies that show you can hug briefly, safely, but there are all kinds of guidelines, like, wash your clothes afterwards and don't breathe, and you turn one way and they turn the other. It's very complicated. It's almost better to kind of put your arms out like this. Some people go like this: "I would love to hug you."
Ah,
And I've had people do that, and that's a good second best. It's
yeah,
not the real deal, but we'll take it for now.
it works. That's great.
We
Super.
had one more
Well,
question come in. These are great.
great.
Margaret is a job seeker and recently interviewed for a job where the team is spread out across the country. How would she handle remotely connecting with a team should she be hired?
Oh, well, I'm hoping that the company would have protocol for onboarding her and introducing her to people. But if she's going to be working directly with, I don't know, 5 or 10 people, I would let LinkedIn be your friend. Look them up on LinkedIn, send that personal message. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I never just ask people to connect with me. I always say, for instance, I'll say something like, "Thanks to Lauren Francis, we're connected." I'll say that right in my message to people, because I'll think, "Oh, I know Lauren Francis. Okay, I'll read this message."
Mm-hmm.
And then I would send an personal email out to each person, uh, and the subject line, I believe, is the most important part of any email, because that's what gets people's attention when they get. I don't know, how many emails do you get a day, Lauren? 200?
I think that's probably on a slow day.
On a slow day. So if you could say something in the subject line, like, "Thanks to Lauren Francis," or "I'm looking forward to working with you," or "I've heard great things about you," that would get somebody to open up an email. I do have a section in the book called "The New Networking,"
Mm.
and it's helpful to know that you can still network in person now as we begin to be more available to each other, but still be safe. And
Mhm.
how can you keep the 6 foot distance and still greet people? How can you welcome somebody into a conversation, but keep that socially distanced? It's possible.
Mhm. Right.
We had another question come in. I think this is a good one.
Oh, love it.
With masks covering half of our faces, it's hard sometimes to read someone's emotions. If a work situation escalates, what's the best approach to understand if you were reading someone's body language correctly?
Yeah, interesting. I would say to the person, with masks on, it's really hard for us to read each other. And I'm feeling like this is getting tense, and I want to respond to that.
Mm.
Is there something you need to tell me that I need to know so that we can continue the conversation?
Mm.
Acknowledge the fact that we're wearing masks.
Mhm.
I mean, it's so weird. I look really hard at people. I mean, I really try to look to see if they are smiling. And even that's hard to tell. We
Mhm.
do our best, but and that's why your hands can be helpful. That you can use your hands in a, like, I really want us both to figure this out. Well, that shows inclusiveness. Now, you want to use your hands with purpose. You don't want to look like it's an airplane trying to land erratically. But say, "I really want us to work this out," or "Tell me what's going on. How can I best understand what's happening?"
Mhm.
That's great. Thank you.
Welcome. So Lauren, what was your big takeaway from the book? I'm curious. I love to hear what the readers say.
Well, I just I loved knowing, having tools
Mhm,
and having a framework
mhm.
for how to show up.
Yeah.
And it helped to have that acknowledgement. It gave me confidence, as you speak about so often and regularly. And it helped me calm down. You mentioned that as well. It helped me feel more prepared. And also, I think the when I talk about civility, or when we're talking about civility earlier, I believe that in some ways this is like a silver lining for COVID. Is it is bringing, I think in many ways, I think you bring a lot of examples of civility, and also the words to use as you speak about, and how to talk to, how to approach situations in a kind and thoughtful way.
Yes.
The example you just gave, it's sort of like the situation where an email chain or is getting tense.
Yes.
It's not, you don't continue to email, you pick up the phone, right?
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
And actually we're writing a blog post about picking up the phone, because people forget. I mean, our phones do absolutely everything except use them sometimes to communicate in situations. But I find that we need to remember that we communicating is sensitive. It is, and we need to be thoughtful about how we show up. So
Yes, there was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago about when to use the phone. And you'd be surprised, there are more opportunities to use the phone than we might think. And in my experience, people of a certain age have phone freeze. I mean, they're uncomfortable using the phone. I think the phone is my best friend because I don't have to worry about how I look. I don't have to worry about responding in time, and I'm a note taker. So I'll often tell people when on a video call, for instance, I say, if I look away from the camera, I'm still paying attention to you. I'm taking notes. When you're on the phone, you can put it on the speaker and take all the notes you want. I think the phone is freeing, and it also gives people a chance to hear your voice and not feel like they have to perform the whole time. Somebody said about Zoom not long ago, Zoom is like having a camera follow you around all day long. The phone isn't like that. So go retro and use the phone.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So thank you for asking that question. It was
Yes, indeed.
yeah, it's just been a great, it's a handbook to me.
Oh, good.
I refer to it as my handbook. So
There's your handbook, your pocket guide.
yes, exactly, for sure. A couple other questions. I don't know how much time we have left, but let me throw this in there. One of the questions I had identified, what's a big deal about owning your name and using other people's names?
Your name, forgive me for interrupting. Your name is a part of your personal and professional identity. There are many Laurens in the world, there are many Tracys in the world, but there's only one Lauren Francis. There's only one Tracy Hooper. And the more you can own your name, and I mean using it first and last name on emails, and use other people's, it makes other people feel significant. For instance, studies have shown that when you use someone's name, it activates a part of their brain that gets their attention. Walking down the street and we hear the word mom, and all the moms turn around, dad, all the dads turn around. Your name is your essence. And so when you use other people's names, it makes them feel important. And that is the underlying tenet of the Confidence Project and the New Hello. It is treating everyone as if they are the most important person in the room, in the virtual room, in the real room, and using their name makes them feel significant. It's powerful.
It is so powerful. And I'm working on practicing that, because I notice when someone uses my name. Thank you so much for asking that question, Lauren. It really makes a difference. And you just all of a sudden there's this feeling of I don't know, you just feel connected, and
yes,
it feels good.
They know me. They recognize me. I'm noticed.
Sure, for sure. Are
Yeah.
we at the end already? We've got our goal at the beginning of the leadership conversations was, oh, nobody has an hour. Let's do 30 minutes. Well, look how smart we are. And now it's like, oh,
It goes by quickly. So that does bring us to the end. To our loyal audience, thank you for joining us for another leadership conversation. Just quickly, these are our upcoming conversations. We're going to have a very busy April, chock full of conversations. On April 13th, we're welcoming Dana Pratt to talk about getting better all the time, the leader as the trainer. We'll be welcoming Jill Freeman for the second time on April 20th to talk about creative total reward programs designed to meet changing employee needs, which is a great topic for right now. On April 29th, we're welcoming Rachel Boehm to talk about how to own the room in an interview. And then on May 6th, Terry Smith will be back for a second time to talk about the STAR method for job seekers. Very exciting. And then here's how to stay in touch with both Mulberry Talent Partners and with Tracy. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you, Tracy. It's so good to have you again, and everyone, this is the book to be reading.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. Well, until next time, everyone, have a good rest of the week.